for 23 hours out of the day, I was feeling less than. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling frustrated and overwhelmed with my situation. But that 1 hour that I would spend in the mountains, that 1 hour I would get out into nature, I felt free.
If you've been struggling to pull yourself out of a dark place or trying to create that energy needed to create transformation inside of your life, then get ready for one of the most impactful videos that you're probably going to see in the next 12 months, because today I get to interview Dan Holguin, and you're going to find out more about him soon, so stick around. Let's get this party started.
I'm on my way up to hang out with Dan Holguin. He is a fitness and performance health coach. He works with entrepreneurs. This guy is a beast. So I reached out to him a while ago and I said, hey man, I'd love to get you on the show and have a chance to ask you a few questions. And I got a message back from him. He's like, sure, let's go climb a mountain. Here we are in Whitefish, Montana, about ready to hit up Whitefish Mountain, formerly known to all the locals as Big Mountain, and that name will never die. Never die! So I'm so stoked to talk to Dan. This guy is known for his huge heart and also his profound wisdom when it comes to fitness and creating energy inside the body, and what it takes to experience real transformation. So here I am pulling into the Spruce lot. This is the very bottom parking lot up here on Big Mountain, and I think I am the first one here.
I feel like at some point I've developed a decent amount of fitness over the years, and every time I pull into this parking lot in the dark, first thing in the morning, I come around the corner to the parking lot and I think that I got the whole thing to myself. I think I get first tracks to myself. And there's always another car here.
Oh, I am not the first one. There are a couple people that have beat me here. So props to them for being achievers and making it happen. So I want to be real with you guys. So Dan is in extreme physical shape. Like this dude, he's always running in the mountains. He's always out there hiking mountains. He's always doing this stuff. So he keeps his body at peak conditioning, and this is what he does: is he works with people and helps them get fit. And while I go to the gym a few days a week, like my game outside, like I've been slacking. It's gonna be interesting to see how I do with 30 pounds on my back hiking up a mountain. This is gonna be the first time I've done this ever. So Dan should be here pretty soon. We'll go from there.
All right, so we have started climbing up Big Mountain. I am here with the man Dan.
That's so far right.
And I can already tell, guys, this guy is elite. He's gonna be climbing this thing, man. Like, I'm here with my snowshoes and my heavy ass backpack. This guy's gonna work me today, but I'm stoked.
And then either way you showed up.
Yes.
And that's what's most important.
Hell yeah. So guys, we're on the very first descent, and like I started climbing the first like 10 seconds and I was like, Dan, where'd I get myself into? And so we were climbing for what, maybe 5-10 minutes, and guys, it was brutal. And I'm so glad I'm here with Dan, because he was telling me a story that helped me a little bit get my mind wrapped around what I was up to. So Dan, could you share that awesome story that you're telling me?
It's interesting because I feel like at some point I've developed a decent amount of fitness over the years, and every time I pull into this parking lot in the dark, first thing in the morning, I come around the corner to the parking lot and I think that I got the whole thing to myself. I think I get first tracks to myself. And there's always another car here. It doesn't matter what time I show up, what time of day. I mean, there's always somebody else here. And even on the days when there isn't someone in the parking lot, and I'm coming up the mountain and there's no other tracks, and I think I'm gonna get the summit first, halfway up, it never fails me, there's always somebody on their way down. And what's so interesting about this is it's typically always the same person. And one day maybe 2 months ago. I stopped the guy and I just introduced myself and I just told him, I always see you up here. And he told me his name is Byron, and Byron is 79 and he does this thing every single day. And it's just really inspiring for me because I want to be like Byron at 79. I want to be getting up earlier than the young kids and crushing the mountain.
That
It's
is
just really inspiring.
That's amazing, man. 79.
Shout out Byron.
like guys, I consider myself average fitness, and I can tell you this is no easy feat. Like, this thing is brutal.
2,000 feet of elevation in about a mile and a half.
What do you think, Dan? We about halfway? We're not even halfway, guys. We just got done talking about David Goggins and his book, and Dan mentioned something about something he said. What was that you said?
He said something that's really stuck with me over the years. He said, the worst thing a man can do is to become civilized. He said that as we get older, we start making a little bit more money, our fridge becomes a little bit fuller, we start leaving the heat on a little bit longer, and we forget what it's like to be cold. We forget what it's like to be uncomfortable. And as a result, we become soft. And nothing wrong with being soft, but something that stuck with me is that it's a fine line between being soft and actually getting uncomfortable for the right reasons. And so I try to keep that in mind as I put myself in situations like, am I going as hard as I think I can be? Or am I just playing it safe?
Let me tell you something, guys. He's pushing that for me. Guys, just had to capture this real quick. There's the guy that's always here first.
So unfortunately, during this clip, the audio on my phone stopped working. But I just wanted to come on here and kind of share, like, we had just reached the summit of the mountain, and I was feeling very grateful, one, to be at the top, but two, for the entire experience, because it spoke to me on a lot of levels. Like Dan said, the mountains can teach us so much about life, and this one climb taught me a lot about myself personally, and about trusting myself, trusting my body, knowing that I can take the next step, even if it's hurting. And at this point, I was just so grateful for the entire experience. But let's not wait any longer and dive right into the interview with Dan.
Okay. All right, guys. So we're here. We made it to the summit of Big Mountain, Whitefish Mountain, and Dan silently pushed me up the mountain in his own inspiring way, and I'm super grateful. And you know, like, when we're on the way up, Dan shared some stuff with me that was mind-blowing, and what I really wanted to get with you guys is, first of all, like, we're making this because, you know, like, we all struggle with our own stuff. We're all pushing through our own things, and Dan is somebody who helps people break through their perceived limitations. And Dan, you mentioned something about, we talked about self-worth, and can you explain or talk a little bit about, like, your journey and like the realizations that you had around self-worth and what it takes to push through these perceived limits, and how fitness plays into that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have one thing that they're really good at. Everybody has that one thing, and for me, it was fitness. You know, it was wanting to be fit. It was wanting to be strong and wanting to perform. And growing up, like, my thing was, I identified as somebody who had their identity wrapped in athleticism and sports, and I just became really one-sided because of that. And at the time I didn't realize it, but that was actually my Achilles heel, because when that was taken from me a little bit later in my life, I realized that who am I if I don't have sports? Who am I if I can't score a touchdown or be able to lace up the cleats again? And when that was taken from me, I really questioned who I was, and I realized that I had wrapped up my self-worth around who I was on the field.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've recognized that own struggle with myself. I was telling you, I've failed in multiple businesses now, and when I was younger, I built my self-worth up around the success that I had in the business. And so when that was taken from me, like I found myself like, who is Nate, and where do I really fit in? Like, how do I value? So when you found yourself at that place, like, I'm sure that you spent some time just, like struggling with the idea, but how did you pull yourself like out of that space?
Well, I think it's like renovating a home. At least that's how I kind of saw it when I first started. It was like I was starting at the foundation. I was starting at ground zero. For those that don't know my story, I'll give you the quick version of it. I found myself checking on a friend of mine who I hadn't heard from in a few days, and realized that after going into his home and finding him unresponsive, that he was dead. And at that point, everything really spiraled downhill, man. Like I in a short amount of time, I gained 30 pounds. I racked up like $40,000 in credit card debt trying to buy back my happiness. I failed my engagement. I moved out of that house and moved back in with my mom. I lost my job because I couldn't perform at work anymore. And I know it sounds like an old country song, man, but to top all of that off, my truck was totaled in a car accident. And all of this happened in 6 months. And so I really was at a low spot. And I realized that I had a home that was basically at the ground floor, and I was gutting it and starting over again. And so what I realized was, what are the things that I really need to focus on most here? With the framing, for example, with the foundation, with the color of paint that I wanted to put on the walls. It was actually a blessing for me because I was starting over. I got to basically reinvent everything. I got to start from building the house from the ground up, and it was beautiful to be able to say, who is Dan now, and what does he want to stand for, and what does he want to do? And although that's like the pretty version of it, that's the beautiful thing about rock bottom, is you get to build the house however you want now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think it takes a certain level of awareness too, because when we're, I'm just speaking from my own struggles and being at the bottom, is to recognize that we have the ability to turn our own ship around.
No doubt.
I think that a lot of people, they don't recognize that, and so they stay at that bottom place. So is there anything, I know this is kind of like a deep question, but is there anything that when you were hit that bottom, is there anything that like helped inspire you to recognize like, hey, I am at the foundation. I can build this. I can go someplace with this.
I think that what really helped me initially was, we've heard this a million times, but focusing on the things that we can control. I can't control what happened to me yesterday. I can't control the fact that I found my mentor dead. I can't control the fact that I now live at my mom's and that I'm in debt. But I can control my attitude. I can control my body. I can control my thoughts and my actions. And I think that what really helped me was focusing on my health first, regaining control of my health. And one of the ways that I did that, well, actually the primary way, is I got out in nature. And for somebody struggling right now, maybe this will land with you, but for 23 hours out of the day, I was feeling less than. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling frustrated and overwhelmed with my situation. But that 1 hour that I would spend in the mountains, that 1 hour I would get out into nature, I felt free. I felt unhinged from everything that I was feeling, and that became like that peace for me. And so early on, I was able to renegotiate who I wanted to be by being out in nature and by just putting myself in a completely different environment.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So, like part of what I love to cover here, like that's
I think that's ultimately the foundation of pulling ourselves out of difficult places. But like the other thing that I wanted to talk about is building energy, like building energy within the body, because a lot of times, and I'm sure that you probably hear this a lot in the work that you do, is, like I don't have the energy to go out and do that sort of thing. I don't know how to get myself going. So is there anything that you can talk about, like the foundational concepts that somebody could put into their life today, tomorrow, over this week, that would help them build that vitality and build that energy?
I heard from somebody one time that energy is like a power plant. It isn't something that we have, it's something that we create, much like a power plant creates energy. And I know firsthand that the only way that I'm going to be able to show up the way that I want, the only way that I'm going to be able to give back and be with the people that I want to be around and those that I love most, is if I'm taking care of myself first. And when I started, man, like I said, I went out into nature, and you may see what I'm doing now, running all the miles in the mountains, but when I first started, man, I tried to run 1 mile and couldn't do it. But I knew that if I just kept showing up, that I would have more health, I would be able to have more energy, I would be able to feel better about myself, because I was rebuilding that trust with myself. But I think that in terms of creating energy, you have to be consistent no matter what level you're currently showing up at. I mean, even if it's 5 minutes, you just got to be consistent. And I think that's what a lot of us miss, is that we try to do too much too soon. We try to go out into the mountains like I did when I first started and run 5 miles. but if you're not conditioned for that, there's no way that you're going to be able to do it. Yeah. And I think that that's a losing format, and it's not sustainable. So in terms of energy creation, we've got to start small. It's like all the time I spend in the mountains, one thing that's really kept me grounded, and something that I got to keep coming back to, is that there is no summit. Even though we're standing on top of the mountain right now, if you can put yourself in the mindset of there is no summit, all there is the next step, then I think that's where the sustainable method is. That's where the juice really is. If we could just focus on one step at a time, one breath at a time, that's how we generate momentum. That's how we generate energy. That's how we really can create something that's powerful.
Dude, that hit me on a core level. Like I felt goose pimples. Yeah. It's like it kind of comes back. I think just another way of saying it is that it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of times we get caught in focusing on outcomes, the big targets, the big things we really want to have, and we forget about all of those small steps we take along the way. And something that I teach my students is to focus on the process instead. If we focus on each step along the way up the hill, if we focus on our daily actions, if we focus on each meal that we eat throughout the day, then we're ultimately going to get where we want to go. Yeah. But if we just keep putting our focus into the destination, then we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Definitely. So a little bit, what is it that you do best with what you do for work?
For work, I help high performers and entrepreneurs regain control of their health. I show them how to do it sustainably. I show them everything that I've been through, and what I've kind of dialed in, what I think are the 12 principles of how to make it sustainable. Despite having a big business, and despite having a family and social commitments and all of the things that we sometimes use as excuses or reasons why we can't focus on our health, I show people how to regain control of it and how to integrate it so that it becomes the foundation of everything they do.
That's beautiful, man. And I'll leave links below in the description so that you can find Dan's website, work, reach out to him, connect to him. I'm sure that there's a lot of things that I'm going to think of after we're done. I'm like, I wish I would have asked him this.
We'll do a part 2. We'll have to climb another mountain.
Okay. So is there anything that you want to share, or anything you feel motivated to share with the audience before we go?
I think back on my own story, and I was in a hole that I never thought that I would be able to get out of. And what really started the ball rolling for me was getting outside, getting out of my environment, and getting out to a place that I was uncomfortable, and somewhere that was challenging me in a new way. And I think that if somebody may be in that spot right now, to just know that you're stronger than you think.
Yeah.
That was something I wish I knew early on. I'm stronger than I think. I need to get out of my current environment. I need to put myself in a place that I've never been. And I just need to focus on one step at a time.
Beautiful.
It can be that simple, you know, like
Yeah.
it can really be that simple, but just those things are really what helped me in the beginning. Yeah.
That's epic. So don't overcomplicate it, one step at a time.
That's it, man.
All right, and so now we get the best part, the sweet sauce from all the effort coming up here. We get to strap on our skis and snowboards and book it back down.
Let's go.
All right, guys.
Sun's starting to come out too.
Yes. All right.
Guys, check this out. So, about halfway back down the mountain, beautiful inversion up here. I can't even express how grateful I am for this opportunity. Come up here with my man Dan. What an adventure. Yeah, oh man, I didn't even get you. Yeah, brother. What I took away from that experience is, you know, first of all, like Dan is he's a genuine dude. Our power is derived from like our own acceptance of ourselves and our trust within ourselves, in our ability to keep pushing, you know, and in our ability to trust the actions that we take. That was an amazing experience, and I'm so grateful that Dan took the time to wait for me to climb the mountain. He stuck by my side, coached me through the points where, you know, my legs were burning and my chest was pounding and I felt like I was gonna throw up, but I kept going. And he was still able to carry on a conversation. But that's because this dude does, you know, ultra marathons and does 100 and some miles at a time. So make sure that you connect with Dan below. You can find all of his channels and stuff in the description. Coming down off the mountain, guys. What an amazing trip.